So hello everybody and welcome back to our school seminar webinar series from the Schools Health and Community Together project. My name's Margot and I am the care navigator for this project, and I'm going to introduce to you two other services that we have here today, and then we can talk a little bit about our speakers. So Danya?
Yes, hi, my name's Danya. I'm from the Junction Neighbourhood Centre, and we provide support for families with children aged 0 to 12 in the Randwick and Waverley local government area. We also provide information and referral to other services, and we run various parenting programs, including 123 Magic, a single parent support group, and a playgroup for children who are starting school next year.
Fantastic, thank you. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm from Southeastern Community Connect. I'm the Family and Community Support Worker. We run playgroups for 0 to 5s, and that's me.
Fantastic. And so today we're really fortunate. We've got Wesley Mission here and two financial counsellors. We've got Samantha Vandal and Maxine Smith, who are going to be talking to us today. And I think something that's come up for all of us is that during COVID and just in general, you know, financial stress has been something that a lot of people have been discussing. And I think it's something that's always on the back of our mind. But unfortunately, COVID, I think, has, you know, brought some of those issues to the surface. So we're very fortunate today and very thankful to both Maxine and Samantha to speak to us. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Margot. I appreciate that introduction. I do have a presentation, so I might just screen share if that's okay. Give me just 2 seconds. It's always difficult to get the PowerPoint going. Okay, so we should have the presentation coming up now. Okay, and it should be full screen now. Can everybody see that? If I can just get a head nod or a thumbs up. Yeah, wonderful. All right, so we'll just dive right in, because financial counseling can be kind of a term you might hear around the place. You know, you might have heard someone say, oh, go see a financial counselor, oh, go see someone to help you with your finances. But what even is that? What does that mean? I think that's something that a lot of people ask. Anytime I mention to someone, oh, I'm a financial counselor, oh, you know, financial counseling might help. They go, what is that? I don't need to go see a therapist. The word counseling is a little bit of a misnomer there, I think, but we'll just kind of jump in and talk a little bit about financial counseling. So what is it? First of all, it's always a free service. So financial counseling, you're not going to get charged for that. It's usually through non-for-profit organizations. Wesley Mission is one of those, but you might also find Anglicare, Salvation Army, a local neighborhood center, community center, often also have financial counselors around. Okay, so it should be a totally free service that you can access. You don't need to pay for that. We are different from, say, a financial advisor or a financial planner. Those things you may need to pay for, okay? That's completely separate from financial counseling, okay? The second thing you want to know up front about financial counseling, it is completely confidential, okay? Any good financial counseling service is going to have you sign a confidentiality agreement that talks about how we're going to protect your privacy and your confidentiality. We know talking about finances can be confronting, it can be tough, it's hard to open up, particularly if you're struggling with your finances. So it's very important that you know up front that it is a confidential service. Anything that you say within a financial counseling room is going to stay there unless you give your consent for it to leave for whatever reason. In terms of what a financial counselor can do within a financial counseling session, there's a couple of different things. So I've summed up here on the slide kind of what happens, but I'll go into detail about each point. So the first point is a financial counselor will assess. And what that means is a financial counselor is going to sit with you and just generally assess your situation. You know, what's happening with the finances, what's your income, what's your expenses, what are the options available to you, okay? And most of the time, the assessment part of things is just going to be a basic budget, but it's really important to have that baseline, what's actually happening with your situation financially before you move forward. Because if we don't know where we're starting, then we can't move forward to what other options are available to you. which leads right into the second point, which is a financial counselor will inform. And that's our main role, really. We're not going to make decisions on your behalf, but we are going to inform you about what decisions are available to you. So you'll probably talk with your financial counselor a lot about options. They're going to say you have the option to do this, you're going to have the option to do this, or you might have the option to do this. And that's really one of our main roles, is to let you know what options are available to you. Because particularly when we're in a financial crisis, we're under financial stress, we're in financial hardship, it can be hard to know how to get out of that hole. You know, what are the solutions? Are there any solutions? And a lot of times there are negative feelings associated with that. So you might be panicked, anxious, stressed, angry, frustrated, upset, the whole gamut of negative emotions. So we're really there to let you know that there are options available and to give you as much information about those options as possible. And then our third point is a financial counselor will advocate. And that's our second main role, which is a lot of times with financial hardship, you might just need someone to help you make a phone call, or to write a letter on your behalf, or to sit with you while you make the phone call. So our job is to, with your consent, with your permission, act on your behalf and be your agent in terms of your decisions. So if you decide you want to go to your bank and request this, we can help write that letter. We can send the letter off on your behalf. We can make that phone call on your behalf and make the process of dealing with people you might owe money to a little bit easier. Okay. In saying that though, we again aren't going to make those decisions for you. So if you go see a financial counselor for whatever reason, you do have to be active in making your own decisions. Okay, so when the financial counselor gives you information about what's available, you go away, you ask whatever questions you need to, and then you come back and you let the financial counselor know, this is what I want to do about my situation. Thank you so much for giving me the options. Can you help me with this decision that I've made? So that's generally an overview of the financial counseling process and kind of what's entailed there. Okay, there are a few things that upfront I just want to let people know, because it can be a little bit confusing, especially if you've never been to financial counseling before. There are some things we can't do, okay? So we can't, for example, give you legal advice, okay? We're not legally allowed to do that. We're not lawyers. So if you have a legal dispute that might be impacting on your financial situation, a financial counselor may also refer you to or work in tandem with a lawyer you're already seeing. Okay, there are some free legal services out there. So if you're not able to afford legal representation or afford legal advice, financial counselor might help you access that. But in terms of the actual legal advice given, we aren't allowed to do that. Okay, we're also not allowed to give investment advice. That's where you're looking at financial planning. And again, for a financial planner, you usually do have to pay a fee. We also can't help you complete tax returns. You want to go to a tax agent for that one. And then a couple other kind of misconceptions. We don't provide cash and we can't pay your bills for you. We might help you access grants or funding or vouchers or emergency relief that can help your situation, but a financial counselor themselves doesn't have access to cash to pay off debts on your behalf. There are also a couple of different types of financial counselors that you might encounter. So there's a generalist financial counselor. I myself am a generalist financial counselor for the most part. However, we also have things like small business financial counseling. So if you happen to be a sole trader, for example, I know they were hit quite hard because of COVID-19, you might need to see a small business financial counselor. And what that means is the small business financial counselor specializes very specifically in the issues that impact our small business owners. The same thing for a gambling financial counselor. If you struggle with problem gambling at all, they are specialized to help you with issues that impact those people specifically. And we also have rural financial counselors. So they help particularly farmers in rural areas with financial counseling matters, because those can be quite complicated all on their own. So we do have a specialization for that as well. So if you happen to fall into any of those categories, there is a specific subset of financial counseling for you. If you fall out of those, you'll probably see just a generalist financial counselor. And a generalist financial counselor can help with a whole range of debts and issues that relate to kind of your average person. Okay, move on to my next slide there. Because now that you know what a financial counselor is, you might be wondering, where do I find a financial counselor? And for that, it's pretty easy. The National Debt Helpline is a number you can call. That number is up on the screen, but it's pretty easy to memorize. It's 1-800-007-007. So if you just think James Bond, you'll be able to find it pretty straightforward. So you can call them if you're the type of person that likes to have a phone call, and they can direct you to a financial counselor. They also have financial counselors on the line themselves that can give you kind of one-off advice as well. But if you're looking for something face-to-face or something in your specific area, you can go online to the National Debt Helpline and use their search. The government website MoneySmart also has a search that can help you find a local financial counselor. And you can also go through the New South Wales regulatory body for financial counselors, which is the Financial Counselors Association of New South Wales. We know it as FCAN. All practicing financial counselors in New South Wales do have to be registered with FCAN. So we all have a little number. So if you're wondering, is my financial counselor legitimate? That's how you find out. They do have to have a registering number, both with the New South Wales body and the Okay, so those are 4 really easy ways to find local financial counselors for you. Just to plug my own organization a little bit, Wesley Mission covers a large portion of New South Wales with financial counseling. So you can give us a ring or check our website to find a local counselor through Wesley Mission in your area as well. Like I said, it's usually going to be a not-for-profit organization that has a financial counselor, since it is a free service. So Salvation Army, Anglicare, Wesley Mission, those sorts of places are good places to start if you're unsure. And if you're already going to ask them for assistance in another respect, you can mention financial counseling, and if they have someone available, they'll be able to let you know who and how to access from there. All right, so now you know what financial counseling is and how to find your financial counselor, but perhaps you're not convinced yet. Why do you need to go see the financial counselor? Which is a very fair question, and one that we get a lot. Why do I need to see one? So there are a lot of reasons why someone might need a financial counselor. Okay, life has a lot of changes in store for us. I think the COVID-19 pandemic is a really good example. Who expected that to happen? Who expected that to continually impact on our lives, even now in 2021 and going into 2022? So you can see how these big kind of unexpected life changes can significantly change your situation. And there are a lot of other things that would do that as well. You know, can it be unemployment? We could have illness, relationship breakdowns, mental health, natural disaster, bushfire, flooding, all sorts of things that have been impacting throughout Australia for many years now. So we've had back-to-back kind of things. We've had, you know, bushfire rolling right into flooding, rolling right into pandemic. So all of those sorts of things can change our situations drastically. They can change our finances drastically. And all of those things may mean that you need the assistance from a financial counselor. And it's quite common. I believe on my slide here, I have some statistics about how many face-to-face financial counseling appointments take place per year. It's about 80,000 or so. These are kind of outdated statistics. So I suspect now that we've had the COVID-19 pandemic impacting on things, that number has probably gone up. I know certainly here at Wesley Mission, we've had an increase in clients ourselves. And I think throughout New South Wales, we've had the same sort of reports that it has definitely increased the caseload. So lots of people need to see a financial counselor for a lot of different reasons. And it can be something as simple as you can see on the screen there, an electricity or gas bill. So 9.7% of Australian households struggle just to pay those utility bills. So it really can be something as simple as that. It can be needing help with a budget, it can be needing help with a credit card, a personal loan, a payday loan, all sorts of things. And if you're struggling at all, if you've experienced a major life change that means you're struggling more than you were before, that's where a financial counselor can definitely help out. Okay, we might pause there and take any initial questions that we have, if anything has come up during the first few slides there.
Yeah, that was really informative. Thank you. I had a question. If I was unable to pay for groceries or electricity, would you recommend something like Afterpay to help me pay it right now?
Okay, so I believe my colleague Maxine will go a little bit more in depth about that in just a moment. But just to give you an initial answer to that, we are never going to give the advice to pay for essentials or for debts with other forms of credit, which may put you in debt. That being said, we're just here to inform. We don't control people's financial decisions. So our main recommendation is to read as much as you can about the terms and conditions of what you're signing up to. Make sure you've done a budget and you know how you're going to make those payments before you sign any contracts or sign up to any forms of credit. Absolutely.
I just have a quick question. Firstly, it's amazing, like 80,000 and plus face-to-face appointments. That's a huge amount every year. And apologies if Maxine's going to address this. If someone is in a financial crisis and they are considering taking out a loan, and I know what you've just mentioned that you wouldn't, that might not be the recommendation with Afterpay. Would you recommend then that someone speaks to a financial counsellor before maybe signing for a loan or taking out kind of another another loan or credit card? Would that be a good point of entry?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maxine, do you want to take that one? Or
Yeah, I would. Look, I think with Afterpay, all of those same, Afterpay, Zip, they're all in the media at the moment, and flavour of the month, and they do serve a purpose. However, you have to be confident that you can make the repayments as and when they're needed or required. To receive the product, whatever it is, without having to pay for it at that point gives people an up feeling. But the next month when they have to make the payment, if they don't have those funds, then fees start accruing, and that, what you thought was the answer to your problem is sometimes another problem. And that's our biggest concern. So our recommendation is, if you are struggling, talk to somebody, financial counsellor, and just see what options are available. There are other products that are available that are cheaper, perhaps, than Afterpay. For example, electricity bill, or you need to buy a new washing machine or fridge, an essential item. There are other products out there that are cheaper to use rather than the Afterpay if you can't make those payments. So it's just, I guess it's a caution, just cautiously be aware of how much it will cost you at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think for a lot of people, thinking about the money is the hardest part. We don't want to think about the money. And I think that's quite true for clients, but people who aren't my clients as well, I experience that with. So it's not just people who are in financial hardship that have this trouble. It's most of us struggle to kind of think about the money, because it's just one extra thing on that list. When you've got kids, for example, and you've got to take care of their lunches and their laundry and making dinner and cleaning your house and all of this other stuff, it's just one extra thing that usually gets shoved to the side, which is absolutely fair enough. And I think one of the pieces of feedback I've gotten as a financial counselor is it made us think about it. It made us talk about it. So even if you just pop in and see a financial counselor for one appointment where you work on a budget with them, you've taken that time out to think about the money, and your choices going forward are going to be a little bit more informed because of that.
Yeah, talking about money is an emotional thing, especially if you are struggling. It is hard to talk to people about that. You may feel that it's embarrassing, or it's something you don't want to share. But from our experience, it's the problem doesn't get as big if you can tackle it at the beginning. So by sort of hoping that it goes away, or hoping that you'll be able to figure out the problem down the track, it just adds more stress. So we try and be open and friendly, and we don't make demands. We provide the options, and you figure out which way you want to deal with it. But we're there to support you in whatever decision you make.
Yeah, wonderful. Were there any other questions before we let Maxine jump into the next half?
Yes, I have one more quick question. It's probably quite specific to the person, but what would be some of the options you could provide if I was struggling to pay my electricity bill on time?
Good point. I'll start. Okay, so we go to the next slide.
Strategies.
No, I'll start at the beginning. So I guess we'll say, in simple terms, what is debt? And debt is basically when you owe people money. And that debt may not necessarily be a formal debt. Maybe you've borrowed money from mum or dad or family members because you're struggling to make ends meet. Arrears is when you don't have the ability to repay that debt. So I guess a bank might be an example where you have a regular payment that you have to make each month towards a loan or a credit card. If you can't make that, then the debt is considered in arrears, and that arrears will keep building if you don't start making the payments. So the example we have here is Amanda, who has a personal loan. At the time, she was happy and able to make the repayments. However, she lost a job, and this is whilst it's an example, it's happening all the time with COVID, losing jobs, losing hours. It's happening all the time. And the impact is that Amanda hasn't been able to make her loan repayments. So that means that she is in arrears with her loan. So if we go on to the next slide, Danya, which is talking about short-term crisis and long-term habits. So short-term crisis would be not being able to pay your electricity bill. The government, New South Wales government has a energy, which is what we've shown as EPA on the slide, energy assistance program. And that is to assist people who have experienced financial hardship, either through a loss of job or loss of income or unexpected expenses, medical expenses, things that have happened that have meant they haven't been able to pay their electricity bill. They haven't had the funds to pay. So it's a scheme that the government is supporting. You can apply online, or a financial counsellor can help you with that. We seek details of your bill, your income situation. We will run through a budget with you. And the aim of that is to see if you can't make this payment, then maybe we can organise or talk about a payment arrangement where you can make, fortnightly payments towards your electricity bill, so that next quarter, you've already paid a lot of it off. But the EPA program is specifically for gas or electricity bills. The other short-term crisis we may have is emergency relief. And that would be if you're unable to buy food, groceries, or you may have registration of the car, which is essential to taking the kids to school, or you might have hospital appointments, medical appointments, or something like that. So there's emergency relief available, which would be for ourselves through Wesley Mission. And as Samantha said, a lot of not-for-profit organisations have a similar program, or hardship variations. Again, given the current circumstances, hardship variations may refer to your loan agreements. You may have heard recently some of the banks have put mortgage repayments on hold. That would be a hardship variation. So if you're struggling, speak to either the bank directly or a financial counsellor and see if they're open to an arrangement where you can maybe make a smaller amount or no amounts while you get yourself back into order, and then you can start repaying again. So there's some of the short-term crises. Long-term habits are things that we try and encourage and give you the skills to use further on down the track. So budgeting, we can help look at budgets for you. We have spreadsheets, we can go through expenses that you may have. And one example would be that electricity. We can look at a payment arrangement where we can see that after you buy your food and, coffees and spending on the kids and all the essentials, you may have a surplus at the end of the fortnight or month. And we can say, okay, well, why don't we allocate 20 of that off to the electricity company? And that means when the bill issues, you're not looking for $200 or $300 because the majority of it's been paid down. So budgeting's a useful tool, and that comes into tracking your spending, knowing what you're earning and knowing what spending you do have. A lot of the banks are encouraging a savings buffer now. So if you do have any surplus cash, put a little bit aside for that emergency, whether it be, you know, you've had an emergency dental appointment, or you've had to buy something for the kids, or something's happened. It's nice to have a little bit in the bank so you can, you're not in stress. You're not in stress. And yeah, repayment arrangements, that's the same as, similar to what we talked about with the EPA. Setting up a plan where you know what's coming up, you know you can allocate money aside, but still be able to do the essentials on a week-to-week basis. So that was some of the strategies for managing debt. There are lots of resources out there. So other than seeing a financial counsellor, you could do all this yourself. The Money Spark website that Samantha referred to before has a lot of really good tools on there. This is like a budget planner. You slot in the numbers. Financial Rights Legal Centre. They have a lot of templates. If you did want to approach your bank in terms of hardship arrangement or changing the payment plan that you have with them. And there's also Ask Izzy. You can just type it in and it will give you an answer in terms of where to go for help. So that's pretty much just a snapshot. I mean, as you can appreciate, it's you know, it's as big as you want it to be, and everybody's circumstances are different. So, you know, some people have debt, some people don't have debt. But yeah, as we said, I think it's better to manage your own process rather than let the debt manage you. And that sort of, you know, de-stresses everything, and you're in control. As long as you've got the information and the tools available, you can do it yourself. So that's all I had. If there were any other questions.
So yeah, I've got one question. If people have questions about Centrelink at home, is that something that they would come to discuss with you, or would you be saying go to Centrelink first?
That one can be quite complicated. So there can often be multiple people involved with Centrelink. Probably the best place to start is with Centrelink. However, we know that can be an incredibly frustrating process for a lot of people. A financial counselor may be able to help depending on what the situation is. So if you think it might possibly help you, it's worthwhile giving a financial counselor a call. However, there is a free service, Welfare Rights Center, that they deal primarily just with Centrelink issues. They help people who are having trouble getting claims approved. They help people who have Centrelink debts. They were involved in a lot of the work with kind of robo-debt related things. So any issues you're having with Centrelink, they will probably be able to advise you in some way or another. Like I said, an initial phone call to them is going to be free. And a financial counselor may end up referring you there if the issue is a little bit more complicated than what a general financial counselor may be able to look at. And again, like I said, we're not able to do legal advice, and sometimes with Centrelink it does go down that path. So the Welfare Rights Center, they are staffed by lawyers, so they're able to give actual legal advice when it comes to Centrelink matters as well. So Welfare Rights Center, can't champion them enough. They're a great resource for Centrelink related stuff as well. Wonderful. Were there any other questions, any comments even? Any observations?
This was really helpful, and it covered a lot of the topics that clients come to me about all the time, especially the EPA vouchers. We get that question a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think electricity and gas is something that, again, people forget about when they're not thinking about the money, and it just comes every quarter, and it's always a bit of a surprise, even though it comes every quarter. So definitely, like Maxine said, if you're in a short-term crisis, there's no other option for you. The EPA is there, but also knowing that you can get into those smaller repayment arrangements. I find a lot of clients don't know that they can break their bill up into smaller, more manageable payments. They think if, the $600 electricity bill comes for using the AC all summer, they just have to pay that $600 all at once. And that's not necessarily the case, which is why seeing a financial counselor can be beneficial, because then they can let you know that that option exists. And then you can have a think about whether or not it's right for you.
No, that's great. And it sounds like, if people are concerned, and lots of people do have those concerns, it's just best to go out there and speak to someone first and just discuss things and know about what services are out there, rather than, losing too much sleep over it, which a lot of people can do. And it is scary. I think making that first step can be really hard, but it sounds amazing, what you provide, and to so many people as well. So, that's great.
Absolutely. And to all the financial counselors in New South Wales, y'all are doing a great job. And if anyone who is watching or who is involved with any of the services that are watching wants to see a financial counselor and Wesley Mission doesn't have one in your area, there will be someone else that does. Pretty much all in New South Wales is covered in some way or another by a financial counselor who is there to listen and to provide information if you're struggling. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, thank you everyone for listening today and for all of your questions. They were all really lovely.
No, thank you. And Samantha and Maxine, if somebody does want to access your service, is there a website or a phone number in particular they should contact?
Yeah, checking out the Wesley Mission website is probably the most straightforward way. You can also call through, but starting with the website is probably an easier, because there's a lot of different aspects to what Wesley Mission provides, and having a look around the website is going to help you figure out whether or not is it, financial counseling that I need, or is it emergency relief that I need, or is it, gambling counselor that I need. So we've got a lot of different services. Having a look around there. We'll provide other contact details for like specific things through to you guys so that you can hand those out to clients as needed. So we'll give you those details, that way you can hand those out. But yeah, starting with the website is definitely a good option. We have financial counseling. We also do financial literacy through our program here. And that can be one-on-one or group sessions. And that's for any and all ages, really. So if you think perhaps you know a couple people who want a little bit more information about how to budget or how to track spending or how to set a savings goal or any of that information, because it's not something we're really taught necessarily in school. We also provide that service. I'm happy to do that as well.
Fantastic. Before you guys head off, I just have one more question. Are there waiting lists to see a financial counsellor?
Unfortunately, yes. It's going to depend largely on your area and how many financial counselors are in the area. For example, some areas, the city, for example, so maybe around where the Junction Neighborhood Center is, there might be a couple different options, whereas some other areas, they might only have one financial counselor servicing the area, which means, unfortunately, their hours are going to be limited and the number of clients they can take are limited. So there can be wait lists. Always worthwhile to call though, because you never know what the capacity is going to be when you call.
Yeah, and I just say that because we're all not for profit, it's not everyone works quite well together. So if I know in Sutherland where I am, if our books are full, we'll make a referral to someone else, to another organisation. There's no bonus or referral fees, or we don't get anything like that. It's just trying to help the clients to find the solution that they need. So just make contact and talk to people.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Okay, just stop the screen share there so we can go back to everyone's beautiful faces. But yes, we'll pass on the appropriate contact details for you guys so that all of that's there. And thank you again for having us today. It was lovely to do this little webinar with you.
No, look, thank you so much. I think there's been so many like points raised, and I guess there's no shame in asking for help. That's what you guys are there for. You do this day in, day out, and it's there to provide that support to families. So it's so great to know that it's out there. And to everyone watching at home, Samantha and Maxine have explained how you can contact Wesley, but you can also contact Southeast Community Connect SECC or Junction Neighbourhood Centre. And if you attend Daceyville Public School, Matraville Public School, Matraville Soldiers Settlement, or East Lakes Public School, you can also always contact myself. Just ask the school office for my details, and we can also link you in with the service. So there's a lot of help out there, and I think there'll be a lot of families watching, especially with what this year has presented, and even with Christmas coming up, that might sit back and go, oh, sounds like a really service that I could benefit from. So thank you so much for joining us today and for speaking and imparting some excellent wisdom onto all of us.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Anytime.
Thank you.